Hi, my name is Evette Rose, and welcome to today's topic, Truth is an Agreement. Now, this topic tickles me pink because this is one of the main reasons why we don't have world peace. Everyone is fighting for their truth and what they believe and how they believe that the world should function, which of course is going to be in conflict with someone else's view and judgment of that. Now, let's say that someone falls and they grazes their knee. We can all say that it's a fact and that the person grazed their knee. We can only relate to it because we have been through a similar experience, and that experience made it real for us. It brought that experience into our reality, which actually made it our truth because we felt it, we saw it, we heard it, and we overcame it. But what about the person who has never actually fallen or grazed their knee in that same way? Like, for example, that person in this case, person A did. What sets them apart? The experience of the accident, the emotions and the experiences of the pain is what sets them apart. Now, does that invalidate person A's experience according to person B? Maybe, yeah, because that experience is not in their reality and they disagree with the experience that person A had, for example. So, now does that invalidate person A's truth? No, it doesn't. What this means is that there's no common ground for person A and person B to connect on and to agree with. Because different experiences were experienced here that shape their truth and perception and also reality. So now, who is wrong? Neither. Now, when a bird looks at the world, it changes its reality completely and also how its consciousness exists within that. And what you see and experience just doesn't matter to it because the bird doesn't even see or nor is it even aware of your reality. And even that changes the existence of the sun. So what is the truth? We can all say that the sun is yellow. However, what does that mean to someone who is colorblind? The very notion that you might say that the sun is yellow means that it is your truth. However, is it the person who is colorblind? Is it their truth? No, because they perceive the reality in a completely different way, and that changes their truth and how they perceive information that is taken in. And you can even look at the law as an example. It depends on what your definition of the truth is, because it might actually be different to what another person's definition is. Now, why is it different? It's different because what we take in from our environment and how we interpret that is different, because our biological makeup is different. So here you might have two people who really truly believe that they are telling the truth, but to both of them, it actually seems that the other one is telling a lie or challenging their truth, because their values and their definition of what the truth is different. So, who is wrong? Neither. Because one person's truth is their truth, and your truth is your truth. And the only way to see eye to eye is with the willingness to actually compromise and to meet each other halfway. That's when a more solid foundation of the truth has actually been reached. When two people can agree on a value and a belief in a non-confrontational way that actually leaves both parties at peace with their final conclusion. So for example, 2 + 2 is 4. It's a fact, and therefore the truth, because we all agree on it. We all accept it without actually creating a war or a conflict over it. We as humans created this concept and the algorithms. But what's important is that the invention and the algorithm works. It works universally. Whether you like maths or not, it just works. And it's something that we all agree on. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you see or hear the knowledge. It really is just a question of how you feel most comfortable receiving new knowledge. We all have a filter in our mind that it's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. That filters information in and out of our reality, and it greatly influences our truth and what we perceive to be our truth. The part of the brain that controls the RAS has an important job. It's like a gatekeeper at a soccer game. The RAS is composed of several neural circuits connecting the brainstem to the cortex. And this little bit of brain matter is actually responsible for filtering in the massive amounts of information to your sensory organs that are constantly sending to it. It then selects pieces of information that are most important to your conscious mind to pay attention to. Now, why do we need this little gatekeeper? Well, your senses are constantly feeding so much information to your brain that it cannot possibly pay attention to all of it. Now, the clearer the filter is, which would mean that it's not so heavily influenced by old stress and trauma, the clearer our ability can become to find a common ground. Now, how do you know when you've reached a place of truth? In my opinion, you don't really. We all receive information from the same space, energy, and source, and experiences and DNA lineages. But how we interpret that information, that is what sets us apart, which brings me to the topic of the ego. Now, spiritually, we experience the ego as part of whom we actually are, such as in our biological makeup and character. And this experience also greatly contributes to us feeling separate to others, because our truth is not understood in a way that we need it to be understood. And there's nothing wrong with having an ego or needing someone to understand your truth. It's often actually a necessary illusion, because without ego, in most cases, we would actually not achieve or aspire to our goals within this competitive environment, which is what we seem to be faced with on a consistent basis. And we don't actually live in an enlightened world, and the masses of the world has not transformed enough in order to have that beautiful ripple effect that could actually shift the consciousness of this entire planet. So ultimately, with the current limitations that we actually have, we can still aspire to become the best versions of ourselves. And it's how we go about achieving our goals that define whether the ego is actually being used in a constructive or a destructive way. And your ego is part of your biological makeup, but it doesn't have to control you. And that is something that is well within your control. And when you become coherent with your higher self and you start to move beyond the ego into a place of compassion, tolerance, and understanding with clear discernment, that is the essence of you that just is. You exist, and it's in that place of existence that I'm referring to here. Don't try to eliminate the ego. It's a part of our healing journey and personal growth. Your ego serves a purpose. It is how you learn from your ego that can actually make it a constructive or a destructive experience. Instead, I would suggest actually working toward a coherent and harmonious relationship between your identity as a spiritual being and the ego identity as being a human being having a human experience. Now, the reason why I introduced the concept of beingness is that it enables you as a person to focus on the part of you that is consciousness and detach from actually materialistic expectations and pressure and emotions that are driven by our biological makeup. Now, this is for you to create a space for yourself within yourself where you can give yourself permission to step into a sense of power that you once thought was only meant for evolved yogis and gods and the chosen people. It's an invitation for you to gracefully step into a place of awareness where it's just you and your intuition, which ultimately is your soul guiding you and serving you as a channel between your consciousness and your physical reality. And I invite you to realize that by just being you and being coherent with your soul and your biological body, then you have no need for anything outside of yourself, as you already have all the resources that you can possibly need spiritually and physically and emotionally in order to achieve your desired results. Now, this does bring me to a more complicated topic. What about those that don't heal? Especially if they have all the resources that they need physically and spiritually and emotionally, then what's the deal here? So we always have to remember that we are actually all having different experiences, and how those experiences play out will be unique to each and every single one of us. And what you perceive as a flaw in someone might actually be a gift to him or her. So allow yourself to go with the flow of life, especially when you're participating in, your own healing journey or with someone else. And a wonderful way of connecting to that aspect of your deepest sense of self is to imagine a beautiful ball of white light that is above your head and feeling into that essence of it and the purity of that lightness. And then allow it to gently drop into your head, down, moving slowly into the heart space. And allow it to just sit there for a while and hold that state of awareness. Because I know it can sometimes be a little bit challenging to hold it as it shifts, because your mindset and your perspective is so focused on a harsh reality that it's often actually a challenge to stay in that beautiful heart space. So now, bringing it full circle, what actually happens is that we as humans find a middle ground where we can see eye to eye, and also where our egos are no longer in conflict with one another, and we gracefully accept something as true and factual. And the truth is only born when there is a collective agreement and acceptance. Until next time, be the light that you are.